Good morning. I am Dr. B. Krishna Reddy, Principal Samala Krishna Agricultural Polytechnic College, Tangelavaripalli, near Mudivedu, Tamballapalli Mandal, Chittoor District. In continuation with engineering chemistry, now we are seeing unit number 4, which is divided into lecture number 6, 7, and 8. Under lecture number 6, now we are going to see what is electrolytes and what is electrolysis. Water soluble substances are distinguished as electrolytes or non-electrolytes. So whatever substances that are dissolvable in water, they can be divided into two categories, that is electrolytes and non-electrolytes. Electrolytes are distinguished from electronic conductors such as metals by the fact that the passage of an electric current is accompanied by the transfer of matters. So here there is a slight difference between electrolytes and electronic conductors. Electronic conductors, say for example, metals like copper, iron, etc. Electricity will pass through these conductors, but there will not be any transfer of the matter in electrical conductors. Whereas electrolytes, in case of electrolytes, electricity passes through them, and while passing the electricity, there is a transfer of matter. That is, the substance will get dissociated into ions, and the ions will move from one place to the other. So, the electric current is passing through this by transfer of matter. This is the difference. Okay. Then electrolytes. Electrolytes are the electrovalent substances, in other words known as ionic substances, that form ions in solutions which conduct an electric current. So definition of electrolytes should also be remembered from the point of examination. So they may ask what is the definition of electrolyte. Okay. An electrolyte invariably undergoes chemical decomposition as a result of passage of electric current through its solution. So here what happens is, when an electrolyte is undergoing chemical decomposition, or it is in other words ionic dissociation, then when the as a result of the passage of electrical current through it, the an electrolyte invariably undergoes chemical decomposition as a result of the passage of electric current through its solution. When electrical current is passed through the solution, the electrolyte will invariably undergo the chemical decomposition. That means it dissociates it into ionic forms. Example, fused salts. What is a fused salt? It is a salt which is in molten state. Next, solutions of acids and the bases are solutions of acids and solutions of bases or salts. So these are the examples of electrolytes. Non-electrolytes. Non-electrolytes are covalent substances which furnish neutral molecules in the solution and there would be no chemical transformation when electric current is passed through them. So non-electrolyte substances are covalent substances, that is the substances bound by covalent bonds which furnish neutral molecules when it is in solution. When they are dissolved in a solvent and in the solution, these substances provide molecules and they will not convert into ions, and there will not be any chemical transformation. That means no chemical reaction will take place when the electric current is passed through them. So unlike electrolytes, in the non-electrolytic substances, even when the electricity is passed in the solution, there will not be any chemical reaction, or in other words, chemical decomposition or ionic dissociation will not happen in these non-electrolytes. Example of non-electrolytes are alcohol, sugar, and glycerol. So students are advised to study the difference between electrolyte substances and non-electrolyte substances. The phenomena of decomposition of electrolyte by passing electric current through its solution is termed as electrolysis. So this is the definition of electrolysis. This is also important. So the phenomena of decomposition of an electrolyte material by passing electric current through its solution is termed as a electrolysis. This process of electrolysis is carried in an apparatus called the electrolytic cell. So electrolysis is carried out in a special apparatus known as electric cell. Mechanism of electrolysis. See, let us see how the electrolytic cell looks like. So this is electrolytic cell. Please observe. This is an anode. This plate structure. This electric supply, and this is cathode. So you see, this is the electric cell. So mechanism of electrolysis. Now we'll see. The cell contains water solution of an electrolyte in which two metallic rods, electrodes are dipped. The rods are connected to the terminals of a battery. The electrodes connected to the positive terminal of the battery attracts negative ions, that is anions, and it is called anode. The other electrode connected to the negative end of the battery attracts positive ions, that is cations, and is called cathode. That means cathode will attract cations and anode will attract anions. So now we can see in that diagram. This is cathode, and cations will get attracted towards the cathode and anions will get attracted to the anodes. Okay, and this is the solution of the electrolyte. When is a tub-like structure where the solution of electrolyte is there, in that two metallic rods are dipped into it, and one rod is connected to the positive side of the battery, and the other one is connected to the negative side of the battery, and one acts as a cathode and other one acts as a anode. And in the solution, when the electrolyte get dissociated to cations and anions, the cations will move towards the cathode and the anions will move towards the anode. Because this anode is positively charged, so negatively charged anions will move there. Since cathode is negatively charged, the cations will move towards the cathode. Okay. So the electrode connected to the positive terminal of the battery attracts negative anions and called as anode. So anode will get attract the anions. The other electrolyte connected to the negative end of the battery attracts the positive ions, that is cations, and it's called cathode. Okay. So the difference between cathode and anion, the student should remember. When an electrolyte is ionized, the cations migrate to the cathode and form a neutral atom by accepting the electrons from it. So when the electrolyte, that is the solute dissolved in the solution, is ionized, that is when it got divided into ions, the cations migrate to the cathode and form a neutral atom by accepting the electron from it. Cathode will have electrons. So what happened? These cations move towards the cathode and become neutral by accepting the electron from it. So cathode will provide electron to the cations and that ionic form will become neutral. The anions migrate to the anode and yield a neutral particle by transferring the electrons. So the anion means negatively charged particles. So by transferring its negative charge, that is the electron, to the anode, then they become neutral. Okay. As a result of the loss of electron by anions and gain of electron by the cations. So ultimately what is happening? The loss of electron by anions. Anions will lose the electron, whereas and electron cations will gain the electron. So as a result of the loss of electron by anions and gain of electron by the cations at their respective electrodes, chemical reaction takes place. Example, HCl gives rise to H plus Cl minus. At cathode, what happens? H plus ion moves and it will take electron and get reduced. When the electron is added, it is called reductive reaction. So H plus electron, which is a negative charge, results in a neutral H atom. The process is called the reaction is called reduction reaction. Pairs of H atom unite to form H2, that is hydrogen gas. The H atoms that has been generated, they will get paired. That means two hydrogen atoms comes together, resulting in the formation of H2, that is hydrogen gas. At anode, what happens? Cl, which is Cl minus ion, gives rise to chlorine, a neutral atom, plus releases the electron. This process is called oxidation. Whenever the electron is lost from a substance, then it is called oxidation or oxidative reaction. So Cl minus means Cl having electron and it loses the electron and becomes neutral chlorine. Pairs of chlorine atom unite to form chlorine gas Cl2. Like H2 gas, here also Cl, two atoms of Cl pair to form the Cl2, that is chlorine gas. So it is very simple. The overall reaction in electrolysis is 2HCl gives rise to H2 plus Cl2 decomposition. So it is nothing but clubbing both the above reactions to make it the full form of formula for the electrolysis. That is 2HCl gives rise to H2 plus Cl2. This is called decomposition or ionic dissociation. Okay. Then Ohm's law. Electrolysis obeys Ohm's law to the same extent as the metallic conductors. Like metallic conductors, which generally obeys the Ohm's law, these electrolytes also obey the Ohm's law. At constant temperature, the potential difference between two ends of a conductor is directly proportional to the current passing through it. So actually, this definition is main applicable to the metallic conductors. Originally, this Ohm's law is applied in relation to electrical conductivity in metallic conductors, not in electrolytes. So what this law says is, at a constant temperature, the potential difference between the two ends of a conductor. Conductor means, suppose imagine an copper wire. On the two ends of this copper wire, the difference between two ends of the copper wire, that is potential difference between two ends of the conductor or the copper wire in our example, is directly proportional to the current passing through it, that is C. Okay, in other words, E is proportional to C. So the potential difference between two ends is E and the current passing through it is C. So the difference between the two ends of the conductor is directly proportional to the current passing through it. So then it can be written as E is equal to CR. The current 1 or C flowing through a conductor is given by the relation E by R. Here the current can be denoted as I or C also. Here we are using I. I is equal to E by R, where E electromotive force or difference of potential at the two ends of the conductor. R is called resistance. Okay, difference of potential at two ends is called E. R is a resistance. Then C are the current flowing, or this can also be denoted as I. Here it is denoted as I. I is equal to E by R. The current strength is expressed in amperes. The second one is the current strength is expressed in ampere. This is also going to be an important bit. What is an ampere? They can ask, or in the examination it can be asked like how the current strength is expressed. Then we need to write it in amperes. Electrical unit. There are a few electric units which we should understand before taking up the study of quantitative aspect of electrolysis. While studying the quantitative aspects of electrolysis, students are expected to understand certain terminologies related to electric units. Okay, such terminologies, number one is Coulomb. Coulomb is a unit quantity of electricity. It is the amount of electricity which will deposit 0.001118 grams of silver from a 15% solution of silver nitrate in a coulometer. So coulomb is a unit of electricity. This measures the unit of electricity, and it is the amount of electricity which will deposit 0.001118 grams of silver from a 15% solution of the silver nitrate. That means in a coulometer. So in the coulometer, we put the silver solution of 15% and pass through the electricity. By that time, the silver get deposited to the extent of 0.00118 grams. Then that much quantity of the electricity is known as 1 coulomb. So 1 electron carries a charge of 1.602 into 10 to the power of 19 coulombs. This is also important. So 1 electron carries how many coulombs? 1.602 into 10 to the power of 19. That means, in other words, coulomb represents 6.24 into 10 to the power of 18 electrons. So if any question is asked regarding coulomb, it can be asked as a short question also. Coulomb, then you need to write the definition and the how many in terms of how many electrons coulomb represents, and 1 electron carries how many coulombs of electricity we need to explain. Okay. Then comes the another unit is called ampere. An ampere is a unit rate of flow of electricity. It is a indicates the unit rate of flow of electricity. So it is that current which will deposit. Just like Coulomb, it is also that current which will deposit 0.001118 grams of silver in 1 second. There is a time factor here. So within 1 second of passing of the electricity through the solution of silver nitrate. So what is the solution of the silver nitrate in a coulometer? In that coulometer, in 1 second, 0.001118 grams of silver is deposited. Then it is called as 1 ampere. That means 1 ampere is equal to 1 coulomb per second. Okay, simple now. 1 ampere means 1 coulomb per second. Okay, then the third terminology is ohm. And ohm is a unit of electrical resistance. Very important. Ohm represents the electrical resistance. It is the resistance offered at 0 degrees to a current by a column of mercury of 106.3 centimeters long and 1 square millimeter cross section area and weighing 14.4521 grams. So ohm is a measure of resistance, and this resistance is also offered at 0 degrees centigrade to a current by a column of mercury of 106.3 centimeters long and 1 square millimeter cross sectional area and weighing about 14.4521 grams. That means the mercury column having a specific length and specific diameter and a specific weight, and at 0 degrees centigrade, and how much resistance is offered in this is called 1 ohm. Okay, it is the resistance offered at 0 degrees centigrade to a current by a column of the mercury. So the column of the mercury of certain length and diameter with a specified weight, how much resistance it offers at 0 degrees centigrade is known as 1 ohm. Okay, then volt. A volt is a unit of electromotive force. It is the difference in electrical potential required to send a current of 1 ampere through a resistance of 1 ohm. So volt is nothing but a unit of electromotive force. So this is also important. What is a volt? Volt is a unit of electromotive force. It is the difference in electrical potential required to send current of 1 ampere through a resistance of 1 ohm. In a conductor, when there is a 1 ohm resistance and to pass 1 ampere current, what is the potential difference required? That is called 1 volt. Okay, classification of electrolytes. So now we have studied various units related to electrical conduction, electricity. So volt, ohm, ampere, coulomb, etc. All these are very important from the examination point of view, as a short questions are blanks, that is fill in the blanks, or maybe multiple choice questions. Okay, kindly remember these units. Next, classification of electrolytes. Electrolytes may be divided into two classes, that is strong electrolytes and weak electrolytes. See, generally the materials in the solutions, we have seen electrolytic, non-electrolytic substances. Electrical substances will get ionized into form into ions, whereas non-electrolytes are they will remain as a molecules in the solution. That is the broad classification of the solutions. But within the electrolytes, again there is a classification, and they are divided into two classes. They are strong electrolytes and weak electrolytes. Strong electrolytes. It is a substance that gives a solution where almost all the molecules of substance are ionized. So strong electrolytes are those solutes which after getting solubilized in a solvent, they totally will get ionized. That means the ionic dissociation is 100%. That means entire substance will get divided into its ionic forms. Electrolytes like NaOH, that is sodium hydroxide, KCl, potassium chloride, HCl, hydrochloric acid, have high value of conductance even at low concentrations, and there is no rapid increase on dilution. Such electrolytes are called strong electrolytes. These are the examples of strong electrolytes. Next, strong acids. What are the strong acids? Is HCl, hydrochloric acid, H2SO4, sulfuric acid, HNO3, and HClO4, H Br, hydrogen bromide, and then strong. These are the examples of strong acids. If you see the examples of strong bases, NaOH, sodium hydroxide, KOH, potassium hydroxide, CaOH2, calcium hydroxide, and MgOH2, magnesium hydroxide, and salts of NaCl, sodium chloride, and potassium chloride, mineral acids, alkali and alkaline, earth, hydroxide, and most of the salts belongs to the strong electrolytes. So, what are the strong acids we have seen? What are the strong bases we have seen? These are both are strong electrolytes. Next, we see the weak electrolytes. It is a substance that gives a solution in which only a small proportion of the solute molecules are ionized. So, with regard to the weak electrolytes, when these electrolytes are dissolved in a solvent and form a solution, only a small portion of the solute molecules ionized, and a large part of the solute molecules remains as molecules without getting decomposed or dissociated into ions. Substances like acetic acid have a low value of equivalent conductance even at higher concentration. So acetic acid, even if it is at a very high concentration, it has got very low value, and there is a rapid increase in the equivalent conductance on dilution. Such electrolytes are termed as weak electrolytes. Most of the organic acid and bases belongs to this class. So examples for weak acids are all organic acids are weak acids. or weak electrolytes, and acetic acid, oxalic acid, sulfurous acid, that is H2SO3. If it is H2SO4, it is sulfuric acid. Here H2SO3, that is sulfurous acid. These are the weak acids. If it is a sulfuric acid, I think it is a H2SO. Sulfuric acid is a strong acid. Sulfurous acid is a weak acid. Then examples of weak bases. Alkyl amines like C2H5 and H2. Salts HgCl2, that is mercury chloride. Lead to acetate. These are the weak bases. With this, we will conclude the subject, thinking that this is the end of the sixth lecture. Tomorrow we will start the seventh lecture. It is actually approximate division of the fourth unit. So we will see tomorrow the seventh lecture, that is related to conductance of electrolytes. Thank you very much.